for your lovely introductions and very, very kind words. And I told you not to say all of that, but there you go. So thank you everyone for making the time to be here tonight. Welcome to our last celebration for the evening. This function concludes Aspergers Network's 21st year. I'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute, but first of all I'd like to tell you a story about my three hats and the making of this book. First and foremost, as you've heard, I'm the mother of three children. My eldest son is nearly 15. He's not in the room, is he? Oh, there he is, hello. He's the tallest in our family, an expert on Norse and Greek mythology, Dungeons and Dragons roleplay, and far too many computer games to mention. His diagnosis with Aspergers 5 years ago was the beginning of a new journey for our family, as we learned all we could about the autism spectrum and how best to help our son learn the skills he needed. That quest very soon led me to the Aspergers Network, or ASSN. When I found the Aspergers Syndrome Support Network Victoria, I was immensely grateful for the wealth of knowledge stored in the volunteers' heads. ASSN is a fantastic organisation offering support and information to individuals with Aspergers and their families. It began 21 years ago when the term Aspergers was barely known, in a Melbourne living room with just 5 members. I think Margaret's here tonight. Margaret's one of the founding members. From those very humble beginnings, we've now grown to over 400 family members, and we run 8 monthly support groups for teenagers, girls, boys, adults with Aspergers, their partners, and 3 different groups for parents. I run the First Friday Parent Group, which is my second hat. In addition to those support groups, we hold 5 or 6 evening seminars every year here in this room, featuring expert professionals such as Richard, researchers and authors like me. Altogether, that adds up to about 100 events each year. We provide an Asperger-specific library collection, a 100-page information kit that we just produced last January, which we're very proud of, and a quarterly, very high-quality newsletter, as well as the website you've already heard about. Our team responds to thousands of requests for emotional support and practical information each year via phone and email. We do all of these things as unpaid volunteers, and we receive no government funding or external support, although we do hope to change that next year when we seek charity status. One of the great joys of being a support group leader is witnessing the growth and evolution in our members. After that first tentative sharing of their situation, newcomers go home knowing that they have been heard and truly understood by people who get it. They will usually have a list of people to contact or strategies to try. And after a little while, sometimes less than 6 months, that same person will be the one to offer supportive counsel to the next teary newcomer. We always keep a box of tissues on the table. So at ASSN, that joy of giving occurs all year round. And so I come to my third hat. I promise this would be short. Third hat of author. When our son was first diagnosed, I read everything I could about Asperger's. I read books by psychiatrists, psychologists, speech and occupational therapists, behavioural scientists, and other parents. Those books contained masses of advice, as did the professionals that we visited with our son. My head was soon absolutely reeling with therapies, strategies, to-do lists, forms to fill out, and action items. I looked for books written by Australians that described Australian health, funding, and schooling systems, but I couldn't find them. The books I did find were either too clinical, as Richard said, or too depressing, or too foreign. They told stories of American and English families and their health and school systems. And I kept thinking about the support groups, how talking with other parents helped me find practical solutions when everything was so new and confusing. By sharing our challenges and the solutions to them, we gain insights into how others make the pieces fit. That collective wisdom that I like to talk about at the Friday group, shared around the table every month, gives us renewed energy and ideas to take home. At this time, when Aidan was first diagnosed and starting the support group, I was writing and publishing articles about many other subjects, everything I was interested in except Asperger's. I felt that it was my son's story, not mine to tell. One day I received another rejection slip for a travel article I'd submitted, and my son asked me, "Why aren't you writing about Asperger's?" Especially when I was reading and researching about it and talking about it all the time. So we discussed the privacy implications, the difficulties with me telling his story and telling too much, and he was younger at the time, and with wisdom, with age comes a bit more wisdom about what's discreet and what's not. So anyway, we agreed that I would be discreet. And so, I hope I have been. So with my family's blessing, I decided to write the book that I needed to read when I was first diagnosed. I took that support group idea and advertised for participants. Over the course of a year, I collected the stories of 15 very generous families, representing males and females with Asperger's with ages from 4 to 36. I spoke with many professionals and government agencies and added my years of research notes to the manuscript. I wanted to capture that collective wisdom and pass it on. I wanted to help others see that an Asperger diagnosis is not something to be feared or depressed about. It gives a name to the social challenges our kids face, an insight into the remarkable workings of the Asperger mind, and a roadmap for filling those gaps and glitches along the way. Asperger's, as I see it, is a different way of thinking, seeing and feeling. It's a difference in abilities, not defective, not diseased, and certainly not inferior. It's just different. Everyone here tonight has some connection with autism. Well, they're a friend of mine, thank you. So you know how different and unique each person is. What works for one person doesn't work for all. There is no universal they, as in, those Aspergers, they all like this, or they like that, we're all good at maths, and it's all rubbish, you know, we're all different. My goal with the Hidden Diffability series is to give you an insight into how diverse Australian families, including my own, have managed to combine the therapies and recommendations into a rewarding reality. We're not just talking about surviving it, we're talking about making it rewarding. So this book, I have a copy actually, I need to read it probably. I've got to bring it over. So this book is the first in the Hidden Diffability series, because I gathered so much material that one book turned into 3. It just wouldn't all fit. So this book, Discovering Asperger's, covers the beginning of the journey. So when you've got those first signs and you're thinking there's something a little bit unusual about your child and you're wondering what to do about it, then how to go about getting a diagnosis in the most cost-effective way, because as most of us here will know, it gets very expensive. How to disclose, and who to disclose to, and how you go about that. Therapies and treatments, funding and support, and the all-important thing that not many people seem to ask is all the positives of being an Asperger, all the special skills and gifts that come with that diagnosis, with that way of being. So I've included diagnostic criteria, including the new DSM-5, recommended reading and resources, and a glossary with 115 terms you might come across in your travels. So the parts 2 and 3 of the book, so Asperger's at School is part 2, that's half done, so that'll be coming out next year, and Everyday Asperger's for everyday strategies will also hopefully be next year or the year after. So I've been asked to explain about the title. My son and I were talking one day about Asperger's and the word disability. While we sometimes need to use that word to get funding and support and get the teachers to really understand that we're not just talking about somebody who's not trying hard enough, we really don't like the word disability. But I've explained it a bit better than I no time writing it out again. But on page 45, chapter 4, getting a diagnosis. With the diagnosis comes a reason and an explanation for behaviour that has left family members confused. The child is not being naughty. The parents are not doing it wrong, and a week or 2 with stern old grandma will certainly not fix the child. You must have heard that. Grandma or grandpa. The child is not broken, nor defective, nor flawed. The child simply experiences the world around him or her differently, processes thoughts and feelings differently, learns and copes with stress differently. Asperger's syndrome, then, is not a disability. It is a difference, not a defect. I like to call it a diffability. Unlike other differences, such as skin colour, height, sight, or physical mobility, it cannot be immediately seen. There's no wheelchair, no guide dog or crutch to provide signals. The diffability is invisible unless a person's behaviour is showing. So we've called it the hidden diffability. So that explains the title. I'll tell you about the cover later if you like. So now it's time for me to thank a few people. So first of all, thank you to the families and individuals for allowing me to interview you. That took a lot of guts in some situations. Thank you to the professionals who have helped our family along the way, especially Richard. Thank you to the parents who provide their stories and support at our support group meetings. There's quite a few of you here tonight. Thank you for coming. And thank you to my writing mentor, Hazel Edwards, for your guidance, encouragement and constructive criticism. To my fellow hazelnuts, thank you for the workshops and suggestions and for helping here tonight. Michelle's out there, she can't. Michelle's our event manager for tonight and she can't hear us, but there you go. Thank you to my very, very dedicated colleagues at ASSN for all the time you give to our community, especially Claudia, I'm not allowed to say that. Thank you to my wonderful editor, Christina, for her help with shaping and improving the book. It needed lots of improvement there, but there we go, it's all good. And thank you very much to my family and friends who have helped, listened and commiserated during the production stories of the book. It's been a few days. They arrived at 6 o'clock yesterday. They were promised last week. And thank you most of all to my family, to Brett, Aidan, Sean and Charlotte. She said, thank you, Charlotte, for supporting me, for inspiring me, and for tolerating my very intense obsessional interest. And now to finish up, I'd just like to share a little story with you. A young family friend hopped into our car recently, and as he jumped in and shut the door, he said, guess what? I've just been diagnosed with Aspergers. Well, I was thinking about what to say next. My kids just turned around and went, high five. And said, congratulations. That explains why we get along so well. So I was so proud of them all that day. It was really, really special day. I rang my friend straight away after and said, you'll never guess what to say. So I hope one day everyone will respond to such news with simple acceptance and understanding. So thank you very much for coming tonight to celebrate the birth of my fourth baby. I hope you not only enjoy reading it, but find it really useful as well. That's what I was going for, useful. And it might just make a nice Christmas gift. So.